You're taking on something that's fairly unique in your succession. So tell us a little bit.
Smartest thing to do would be to create and train my competition, because by training other people, they can go out and do all the other work and I can do the backup, and that way I can then work the hours I want to work, still be doing what I want to do, because I can't see myself retiring as such.
Well, welcome again, folks, to another Scale to Freedom podcast. We're here to help people just to understand a little bit more about what it is to grow, what it is to build a business, and what it is to have freedom. And so many of us have a different description on what freedom is and what scaling is about. And today I have an extremely good friend. We've known Alan and I have been friends for, probably too long, as long as some of the listeners out there have been alive, I would say. But Alan is known as a communication, and he has this an innate ability to understand reading people's face. So I'm probably going to get read here a lot today. But Alan, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks very much, Kel. As you say, we have known each other for a long time and in quite a different number of different capacities as well. So it's always great to catch up.
It is, mate. And Alan was at my wedding not so long ago, and we had a couple of ales, and I even had a bit of a chili allergy, and it was quite an interesting day. But no, that's for another story. Folks, today our topic is about how your passion is going to help you scale, and particularly how passion will help in your succession planning. And this is what I've always loved about Alan. He's been passionate about what he does, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about it. And more than anything, he's faced some challenges along the way, but he just keeps on going. So, Alan, I'm going to go over to you and ask this question, mate. First of all, just tell the people a little bit about what you do, and then maybe we'll get into some of the other challenges a little bit later on.
Okay, well, as you said, communications, but mainly in the profiling area. So I help people to be able to read each other, to understand each other, to build stronger relationships for the purpose of relationships, not being able to read somebody to manipulate them in any way. The whole thing is your facial features tell me your personality. And I can get that from photographs, because your facial features don't change overnight, but they tell me how you like to think and process. So the how, not the why, or the what. And then when I've done that, I know how to change the way I like to be spoken to match the way that you need to be spoken to. So the language comes into it. Then I've got the feedback from your body language and expressions and the language that you're using, the paralanguage, that tell me, did I read you right? Was there something emotionally going on? And are you telling the truth? But in that last section, not as a lie detector, but as a truth seeker. Because if I know that something's going on, if I'm doing a presentation, I'm wanting to sell you something, and I realize that you're not really listening because something's going on, I'm wasting my time with the sale. My best idea is to stop, see if I can have a chat with you to find out what's going on. And if we don't have enough time to finish the conversation that I rang you for in the first place, I'm going to put that on hold. But I know you'll probably come back to me later because you knew that I was concerned about you, but more so than just making a sale. So it purely build relationships.
And it is great. And I've always known that. You've always been that person about how's the relationship going. You know, we've kept in contact obviously over many years. And one of the things in that, a lot of people can use this tool, as you said, they could probably use it a bit of a sneaky way, etc. But I know, and I'll just give this testimonial straight out. Like I put myself and some of my team members through it many years ago, some of your training. The results were phenomenal in the relationship side of things, particularly the relationship. Just being able to read people and say, they didn't really agree with me there, but they did agree with me over here. And it creates that solid relationship. I know it works. So, mate, you've worked with some fairly interesting sort of businesses and companies over. Just to give us the creds, mate. Tell us some of the people you've worked with and some of the success stories and maybe some of the challenges as well.
Yeah, well, I've worked with Disney Films and Gillette. Went over to London. They were running a joint event back in 2016. It was just on the relaunch of the Rogue One Star Wars launch. And they hired me to be interviewed by the world's press, 120 journalists, to explain the stories that the face tells before you utter a single word. So it was a pretty good gig. 10-day holiday, 3 hours work, and being paid handsomely for that process. And then I've worked with law enforcement in being able to teach them how to not just look for lies and things like that, but first of all, how to build relationships, how to get that connection with somebody first so they can then start to open up and share more information. And I've worked with businesses of all sizes and parents and school teachers. My passion is working with, especially with school teachers and parents, so the kids don't fall through the cracks. And some of the successes, I had a business coach over in Perth who sent me 5 photographs and I did his profile for him, sent him back a 45-minute audio. And when we got together on the line and that to have a chat about it, he told me he used to be an undercover narcotics agent for 2 decades before he became a business coach. And the business coaching he was doing now was training the leadership of the SAS. And he said that he'd used skills that he believed were up to 95% accurate in those 2 decades. But what I put into that audio not only matched, but nuanced everything I learned about himself in those 2 decades. So, of course, he just jumped into my master course straight after that. But the one that I'm really happy about is that I had a mother with a boy who was 6 years old. I profiled him. I gave her information on how to deal with him. The school didn't want him. The after-schools care didn't want him. He had Asperger. The psychologist said he'd need a carer for the rest of his life. Well, I profiled him, I will say, from his photographs, because he wouldn't sit still for me. And from that, gave them a report back to the mother. She took that to the school. A year later, he was doing a presentation in front of the class. Another year later, they let the psychologist go, didn't need him anymore. And with the doctor's approval, medication was off the table. And then she's still doing testimonials. The last one she did for me was last year, when he's 21, living on his own, got a girlfriend. He's moved to Queensland. He's got a girlfriend. He's got his own place, drives a car, and he's an assistant manager in a nightclub. So much for the psychologist who said he'd need a carer for the rest of his life. This is the beauty of it. When you're able to connect with somebody on the way that they need to be treated and spoken to, you break down all barriers. And if you've got somebody who's got neurodiverse, for instance, and they're on medication, you change the way you're talking to them. It's more in line with the way they need to be spoken to. They don't get triggered as much, therefore they don't need as much medication. And if they're not medicated as much, they're going to grow faster as well. And that helps to get rid of the medication further.
Wow. Wow, folks, you've just heard a man who has been on a mission with a passion. Mate, I've heard some of these stories before, but they still, every single time you tell them, and this is a new one, just wow, Alan, it is cool, mate. So we talked about, the idea, we're seeing your passion coming out. There's no doubt that this is what you wanted to do. So tell us a little bit about what's been the journey so far. So you've hit a couple of potholes along the way. And when we talk about scale to freedom, a lot of people see scale to freedom as how do we grow and make lots of money and then maybe do a lot more of those gigs where you go over there for a 10-day holiday and do a couple of hours work. But that's what some of us think of, but yours is a little bit of a different story. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the first thing I should really point out to everybody is I'm nothing special. What I'm teaching people today, anyone can do. The first 50 years of my life, 2 divorces, a lot of broken relationships, business partners who emptied the bank out. I was lousy at reading people. That's why I got into profiling, necessity. And since then, I've been helping other people build their relationships. And because of that, the side effect of that is I've had some great relationships created because of that. That's been the major thing, is realizing, first of all, that everyone who's listening to this, you can do what I do. And one of the advantages of all the people I train that they have that I didn't have is me teaching them. Because I had to learn from all these different areas and pull it all together and create rapid trait profiling from 5 different sciences and working with so many different people. But now I brought them all together. And it was only last year, it was actually said that Freud diagnosed, Jung explored things with archetypes and symbols, then Adler empowered, and Alan Stevens delivers. And so I've actually taken all of the work that Adler and Jung had done and turn that into a program that anybody can learn and apply. That's just keeping me going all the time.
Yeah, so passion. And so this is where, when we talk about succession, a lot of us think, okay, our succession plan is how do we retire and how we have a business that makes enough money, etc. Yours is a little bit different. So you're taking on something that's very unique in your succession. So tell us a little bit. I've alluded to it, but let us spill the beans, mate.
Well, one of the things I realized when you look at psychometric profiling, Myers-Briggs, DISC, and all of those different systems, they're self-reporting. And when you ask people questions, people are always they're in an emotional state, but they're also wondering, well, what are you asking? How am I going to be interpreted here? Whereas with rapid trait profiling, it's purely what the observer is picking up. Your facial features, your body language, your expressions, etc. So there's nothing that the person is saying that can then put you off target on reading that person. So one of the things is I wanted to get it to the point that it's really recognized worldwide, because I know 89 of the top 100 companies still use Myers-Briggs, even though they know that if you profile somebody today, put them through the questionnaire 6 months later, 49% of people will get a different result.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are the problems with that, but with the facial features, you know not only how that person will operate in that field, but in that moment, but if you put them in any other situation, you'll know exactly how they operate. How they operate at work might be completely different to the way they operate at home, because their partner might be more controlling, etc. Whereas at work, they might be the one in charge. So there's all of those issues that come from this. So I thought, rightio, I want to get this to a level and grow it. So I decided at the same time, I do need to back off. I'm in my 70s now, well into that, and I need to be able to stop the traveling and other things I was doing. Take a little bit easier, but I still want to do so much development. So I thought, right, smartest thing to do would be to create and train my competition. And so that's what I'm targeting on at the moment, because by training other people, they can go out and do all the other work and teach people and everything else. And I can do the backup to make sure that the research is always up to date, there's new things, and making sure they got that available to them. And that way I can then work the hours I want to work, still be doing what I want to do, because I can't see myself retiring as such. If I retired, I'd probably be sitting around coffee shops and that profiling people and doing it for nothing anyway. So I'll set it up so I've still got a nice income coming through. And so that's the smartest thing I thought I could do. And so now taking my master course, teaching people that, having them with me for over 12 months. So the master course takes 3 months, but the next 9 months, they work with me while I develop the new courses, which are looking into the dark triads or the dark psychologies, the things like new facial features that give us an indication there might be, until we test it, we don't know, but there might be some character issues. How to recognize people who are narcissists, Machiavellians, psychopaths, sociopaths, etc. Those that might be coercive controllers, those that might look like they're the type who will perpetrate domestic violence. Being able to recognize before it happens, to be able to change the direction of your life and improve that. So working with him on that 9 months, bringing skills in that can be used, even hostage negotiation skills that can be used in business and personal life, to be able to really read the other person, keep yourself safe and get the best out of your life. And so while I'm doing that over that 9 months, they're helping me to develop the programs that once we finish, will go to market. So this team will always be my inner circle who will be there to test everything that we do. As I do it into the future as well, they will keep it and own it, and they go and deliver it. But then I've got my affiliate programs that are working with them with all the stuff that they'll be able to use in their training with people, because they can mentor and coach, use my material and that to teach how to read people. And there's my income from affiliate partnerships with a lot of people who are doing just that work.
Yeah. Folks, there's a lot in here, and you may have to go back and rewind in some of this, but some of the principles that Alan's talking about here is some basic principles of train up your people, right? Yeah, you call it your competition, train your competition, but in some respects, it's empowering people to just to take on your legacy. All right. And a lot of us in business, when we talk about a succession, we're talking about how do we have a legacy that we leave behind and then have an income that generates behind it. And what Alan is talking about here is something that it's just the way in which he's adapted the same principle to fit with your passion so that you don't have to let go of your baby, but you can definitely get the freedom that you desire. Is that about right?
I think that's about it, because we see so many people who decide, rightio, at the end of that age, they need to get a succession plan in place. Sometimes most of them leave until too late, so they get the results they could get. But then when they walk away from their business, they're passed on to somebody else. They go, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
And I've realized that many years ago, they said that it was on average 2.7 years after a person retired that they passed away. And I didn't want to have that happening. So I thought, right, right, here we go. How do I live forever?
Yeah.
I will keep working all the way through. And once they've passed their business on, it's like they've lost their baby. They've spent all those years building it up, and now it's gone. Well, I won't have that problem. And I know that I'll have people around me that I've built great relationships with.
Yeah. And I get you. Like, you'll remember yourself, like 2018, I decided to retire. Lasted a total of 2 weeks, and off I went again and built another business. It's in your DNA. As business owners, if it's in your DNA to have a business and to feel like you want to continue to contribute, do it. Like, freedom and scaling to freedom doesn't mean you have to stop and throw it all away. As you said, it's your baby. When you're passionate about helping people and you're passionate about doing something, nothing's going to take that away. And retiring, that inner driver doesn't stop the day you retire. It keeps on going. And if you suppress it, hey, was it 2.7 years? Yeah,
2.7 years.
I'm past that because I started a new business, must be.
Yeah. Well, I remember when you said you were retiring, I went, yeah, see how long that lasts.
You probably read it on my face that I was retired, but I wasn't going to really retire. That's probably what the reality is. That's a story for another time. Alan, look, this has been fascinating. And I think I want to make sure that people know, number one, where to contact you, where's best to contact you on. And maybe what are some of the steps that people who might be interested in this whole face profiling and understanding it and building quality relationships. We must say that. It's not just about coercing, it's about building trust and how to relate to people better. So what might be the steps? And then tell us where we can get in contact with you and know more information.
Okay, well, the very best place to get in contact with is through my website, which is alanstevens.com.au. So Alan, ALAN, and Stevens, STEVENS.com.au. If you go to that website and you go to the online courses, you'll also find a free course. And it's I always like to give something away to people. So it's something they go and learn for themselves. It costs them nothing to do. I remember my mother kept on always telling me when I was growing up, the value of, or the proof of the pudding is always in the eating. Now I'm sitting here talking about all the stuff that I can do and how other people can do the same thing, but how do you know until you try it?
Yeah.
And so, my mother used to cook food. She'd say, I've done all this stuff. It's really great. And we go, yeah, well, wait, Mum, wait until I taste it. I'll tell you if it's any good. And that's what I always throw out to other people. Test it for yourself. So go to the online course section on my website. The first course is listed as a free course. It'll take you 28 minutes to go through it. It'll teach you a couple of different trades you can go out and trial for yourself. And then when you've got that, come back and have another talk to me. Go to the website, have a good look through, and ask yourself, well, what's the next step you'd like to go to?
Yeah.
And then have a chat with me.
And you obviously do like master classes and group sessions and one-to-one sessions. So there's so many ways to engage with Alan and follow him on Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll make sure that, when we post this podcast out there, we'll give you all the socials and all the different places to be able to find some more information. But alanstevens.com.au is the place to go. It's got all the information there. And we make sure that we go out there and share that with the world and build some relationships and create our own competition of that idea. Any last thoughts for our listeners today, Alan?
Well, one of the things I always like to put out to people is just go by the old saying, or two things. The first one is the most important thing you'll ever learn is the next thing you learn after you think you know everything. But the other one is what you do for yourself dies with you, but what you do for others is and always will be eternal. And so think about that. If you're looking at succeeding in your business, etc., how can you help other people? You get them passionate about the business. You're going to be much, much more successful in finding the right people and knowing that you pass that business on to the right people.
Yeah. Beautiful. Alan, been an absolute pleasure as always, mate. And next time I'm back in Australia, I'll definitely catch up. We didn't get a chance to get it this time. It's too busy.
Well, I got a surprise for you. I'm looking at coming over to Thailand later in this year. November.
Yeah, mate. Well, I've got a bed for you up in Chiang Rai. You're always welcome, my friend.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
Folks, this has been another riveting conversation I've had. Alan Stevens, great mate, and over there in Oz, changing lives, building relationships, and really the story of today is about how do you scale to freedom, but more importantly, how do you have a succession plan where you maintain your passion? And that's really what Alan he's personified that. It's been the man that I've known for over a decade. I'm probably getting close on 2 decades now. I'll be getting, I would say.
Very much so.
Mate, been great. Until next time, folks, Scale to Freedom is all about sharing with your people, sharing with the friends and family. Please make sure you like and share this and get it out to as many people who can actually learn how to become free in life. Until next time, bye for now.